And he is joining us here. Brady, first of all, you have, intimate experience with the Cleveland Browns situation. And I believe that sometimes as fans, people overlook what you inherit. I do think if Carson Palmer would have inherited Belichick, he had a great career. It could have even been greater. I think if you put Tom Brady in Cincinnati, he would have still been exceptional, but he probably isn't to 8 Super Bowls. I worry that Baker Mayfield is not the kind of transformative player that can carry dysfunction. Maybe I'm wrong. What did you see last night? What is your guess on him?
I don't know that Cleveland's in a position right now where you could still label them dysfunctional. And I think that has a lot to do with the decision that Jimmy Haslam made in keeping Hugh Jackson around as head coach, even after only winning one game the past 2 years. And one of the reasons why they say that is because I talked to a future Hall of Famer, Joe Thomas, who recently retired. And I asked him, of all the head coaches you had during your time with the Cleveland Browns, who do you like the best? Who do you feel like was the best head coach? He said Hugh Jackson. So to me, that kind of sent the message that because of the position Hugh was put in, with some of the front office people and decisions that they made and before him, they want to give him some time. And I think Jimmy Haslam, as being a new owner, as far as a majority owner of the Cleveland Browns, relatively young, I would say, in his ownership compared to the rest of the owners in the league, he's remaining patient with Hugh Jackson, at least giving him one more year. And he's brought in John Dorsey. So I don't think Baker Mayfield is inheriting quite as much dysfunction as it used to be. And I do think this is one of the most talented rosters that Cleveland's had, maybe since they've come back since 1999.
By the way, I do think he throws a good football. I mean, Brady, I do think he delivers repeatedly an accurate football. That's why I don't think he's a bust. I mean, as far as throwing the football, what do you see?
Well, I mean, it's way too early to label anyone a bust at this point. But no, you're right. He's accurate. And I think that's what made him so successful at the college football level. He carries himself with such confidence because of that accuracy. So when he goes out there, he feels like he can make any throw, and that was what was on display, I think, last night versus New York. Is that confidence and is that accuracy, as well as the poise. He's always been really good at negotiating the pocket and finds ways of making space when maybe there's not as much space, and then getting his body around to make a throw. All those things were on display. My concerns are this. If you go back and you show the touchdown pass that he threw to Njoku, the very first one.
Yeah.
He kind of goes back in the pocket. He initially drops back, steps the pocket, steps up. And then as he has to wait, he actually drops back further. That's something that typically you're not going to get to do once you go against the ones and once you're playing in regular season game. That's a habit that he may have developed in college and something that's probably not going to fly in the NFL. There were times when you see him, if he wasn't thrown to his first read, the ball wasn't quite as accurate. He wasn't quite as on time. Those are things that teams are going to force him to do once you get into regular season games and once teams are game planning against you. So I thought it was a solid debut. He still obviously has strides to make, but the guy who stole the show for me last night was Josh Allen. He looked like the number one overall talent as far as quarterback, with that arm strength and how polished he looked, and with the athleticism he displayed as well.
Yeah, Josh Allen of Buffalo made a throw to the corner of the end zone that was a rope. Now, again, I think I compare him a little bit to Lamar. I think he's a little bit of a project because he just didn't play at the college level against day in and day out your Big Five teams. He did make an amazing throw in that game. Now, I heard you weren't as impressed with Andrew Luck. What concerned you?
Well, not so much that I wasn't impressed, just concerned. And, they didn't ask him to do a bunch versus Seattle. Some of that could be game plan. They typically have a very good defensive front, so you're going to have a lot of shorter passes, quick passes, and screens, which you saw early on. But it was a few of the downfield throws. They just didn't have the same type of pop, the same type of zip. There was even a time when he was rolling to his right, made a throw on the sideline, and it didn't look like the Andrew Luck that you can remember in his first 3 years. Now, granted, he's had some wear and tear, and obviously coming off a shoulder injury. But that's the concerning thing most is, when you watch a guy like Josh Allen, or even Patrick Mahomes for that matter, and he didn't display it last night, but throughout the course of his Week 17 game he started last year, those guys have so much velocity and so much speed, they can make throws all over the field. Luck used to be like that. He used to make defenses have to defend the entire field. Based on how his ball kind of tailed off and how it looked last night, I'm more concerned with how it's going to hold up through the course of 16 games, and including this preseason.
By the way, Cam Newton pregame goes over to Kelvin Benjamin. I said earlier it had kind of a high school cafeteria confrontation feel to it. I don't see Russell Wilson doing that. I don't see Aaron Rodgers doing that. I don't think you should care about some, number 2 receiver in Buffalo. What do you make of him before the game confronting Kelvin Benjamin?
I'm actually a fan of Cam because he's genuine. That's who he is, and whether you like it or not, that's how he handles himself. And when someone says something about him through the media, instead of saying it to his face, he's the type of guy that's going to, when he sees him, he's going to come up and confront him. So it may look bad, but, for all Cam Newton knew, maybe he thought they were cool. Maybe he thought they had a good relationship and a good rapport during his time in Carolina, and this could have been the first thing he heard about it. I'm sure he wasn't pleased with how that went, wanted to talk to him man-to-man, face-to-face, and I don't have a problem with that. I wish actually more players, took the time to do that instead of just airing out their dirty laundry through the media or through Twitter. I mean, go ahead and try to find some sort of, reconciliation or resolution face-to-face like men should.
By the way, Saquon Barkley, you watch a lot of Big Ten football. I don't think he's Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think he's Todd Gurley. I said he's lightning like Alvin Kamara, but Alvin Kamara has Mark Ingram to create the thunder. I wouldn't have taken him number 2, and I do think he's really good, but he doesn't feel like Todd Gurley to me, and if you're going to take a running back 2, boy, I just see how many undrafted guys and late-round guys in the NFL go college to pro running back and make it. I mean, what do you make of him? College to pro, he had one nice run last night. Well, what do you make of him as a talent long-term?
Well, I don't know that there's a long-term shelf life for many running backs in the NFL. So I think if you're going to draft one now, it actually maybe makes sense if you really feel good about the guy to do it early. So you don't necessarily have to pay him that big second contract like the Rams have done with Todd Gurley, unless he's proven himself to that point and you do feel like he's got another good 3 or 4 years after his first 4 years. So in the case of Saquon, he demonstrated all that ability that you'd want to have at a running back now, the ability to catch, the ability to run, the ability to do things even in the return game. I think my question is, there were times last year in college he disappeared.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a string of games, Indiana, Northwestern, couldn't touch 100 yards rushing. You look at Ohio State and Michigan State, 2 of the better defenses in the Big Ten last year, didn't even get past 70 yards rushing in those matchups, even Rutgers. So there were times when he started to disappear in the middle of that season. And granted, he still hurt teams in the passing game. He still hurt teams returning the football. But in the NFL, teams are going to be ready for him. I mean, they're going to be game planning against him, finding ways to keep him in the backfield. So he's going to have to be productive running the football. I'll say this, though, Colin. One tendency he did have in college that I thought he showcased on that first run was, in college, he would have bounced that run all the way to the outside. He would have tried to outrun those 2 Cleveland Brown defenders instead of putting his foot in the ground and cutting up north and south. That, to me, was progress from where he was in college, especially when he was in that scenario where he kind of had a lane but would utilize his speed more. In this case, he put his foot in the ground, got north and south, got the big game. That showed growth and progress, at least in his vision and his running style from college to the NFL so far.
Brady Quinn, good stuff. Sunday night, Fox Sports Radio. Got to have you on more, bud. Stop by the studio anytime you're around. Love to have you on.
Yeah, I would love that. Thanks for having me on, Colin.
All right. Fox NFL analyst Brady Quinn. Car shopping's confusing. A lot of different terms out there. Dealer price, list price, invoice. Here's what's not confusing. On average, you can save $3,000 off MSRP if you go to TrueCar.com and check out the true price on TrueCar. Jay Glazer, too. Jay was at that. I think Jay was at the Giants-Browns game last night. And it was fun. I mean, I sat there and I watched 2 hours. I bounced around the league and watched 2 hours of preseason. I hate